Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We are in the month of October, and we're on a downhill slope towards Election Day.
Yeah, it's coming fast.
On November the 5th.
Yep.
And prior to Election Day, we're going to actually have a couple of shows with many of the candidates from Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, and Whispering Pines, where the candidates are going to come in and they're all going to have an equal opportunity to speak about their positions and to try to help clarify those positions for voters.
Yeah, we got busy shows coming up.
We have a lot. Yeah, there are quite a few. October is always the busiest month, and you know how we've always made reference to the national media and all the noise with all the news and how numbing it is.
Yes, I listen to it all day.
I mean, you're better off sometimes just going home and unplugging your TV.
That's exactly what I do.
But on a local level, elections are more organic. There's a very strong, a good feeling in Moore County, and there are a lot of very earnest candidates who love Moore County and love the towns they live in, who want to serve. And we're talking all about local Moore County residents, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But the benchmark for all these elections, you know, they have to start with some sort of organizing authority. And today we're going to actually be speaking with Elizabeth Forbes Mangrum, who is the chairperson for the Moore County Board of Elections. And this is a great time to sort of lay out some of the ground rules. And we're not talking politics, we're just talking logistics.
Yeah.
And we're talking about what people need to know, whether it be absentee voting or what's going to happen on November the 5th, so that it's a very well-run, a well-oiled machine. We're also being joined by Bob Barmore, who is a board member of the Pinehurst Civic Group, and Robert Wilson, who we want to call Bob. Also, you're a member of the Pinehurst Civic Group. Bob number one, Bob Barmore, called me a couple of weeks ago, and this was something you wanted to organize and put together and bring in Elizabeth for the Board of Elections to give people a big picture overview of what's going on in Moore County.
Yes, I mean, as part of the civic group, part of our mission is voter education in terms of how to, where to, when to be able to vote here in the state, especially as we have a lot of new people moving in to the area. I mean, this is Moore County. It's an easy place to find your way around, and I was amazed when I did the research how there's no excuse for not registering to vote and voting. I think every municipality, except maybe 1 or 2, has contested races, and your vote is going to matter. So now is the time to stand up and be counted at the voter box.
From a layman's point of view, with all the news that I listen to or tried not to listen to lately, whether it's local or national, there's so much information about voter registration. People, I think, are fatigued. And how can we sort of reset that tone so that they can just focus, put their blinders on and focus on Moore County and not all the noise that's happening nationally. And the media has just amped up its information. There's just so much out there. Elizabeth, that's why you're here today, because you're going to cut through all of that and make it very simple and very organic, aren't you?
Thank you for having me.
There's no pressure.
There's no pressure
on you to do that.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, good morning.
That is my goal this morning.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the Moore County Board of Elections, the governing body, what it does, what its responsibilities are.
So the Moore County Board of Elections is made of 5 members. We have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans representing the Moore County citizens.
Okay.
And it is our duty to oversee the election process in Moore County, all the way through candidates and financial records that they submit to the County Board of Elections, through voter registration, through counting ballots, and producing results for Moore County.
Okay. It's not a red job. It's not a blue job. It's a nonpartisan job.
It's a nonpartisan job, and every member on that board works for every member of Moore County.
Right. And the bottom line is everybody is just trying to do the same thing, make sure that we have registered voters, informed voters, so that the process on November the 5th or even the absentee process can run smoothly.
Correct. And the reason that we have both parties represented on the board is so that both parties can feel that they are represented on the board. And so it's not a lopsided situation. We have people from both parties there to represent the party's values.
Yeah. Bob Wilson, how did you get involved with the Pinehurst Civic Group? And tell me a little bit about it.
I've been coming to Pinehurst since 1991 with my wife to play golf.
Right.
And we had really begun to like the place. We lived in Northern Virginia.
Right.
And I guess about 12 years ago, when looking at the various places to go to and to move to and retire and build a new home, we chose Pinehurst out of a lot of seacoast areas because there was a lack of hurricanes.
Right.
But there was something about the character and the charm of the village and the neighborhoods in the city that made it special from something that we had seen anywhere else.
Bob, he sounds like a real estate broker.
Don't you love it? You got to sell the dream.
Right? All very well said. How long have you lived here?
We've been here 10 years full-time now.
Okay. What is the role of the Civic Group?
Well, it's a lot of different roles, but as Bob Barmore said, the main thing is that to help people stay informed of the various facts in the election. One of the things that we want to try to do is promote transparency, awareness of facts, and understanding of issues, and do so in a nonpartisan, civil, informed, and neutral manner.
Okay. I hope our national administration is listening to us.
We would hope everybody's listening to us.
You just don't take my humor, my biting comments. Just discard them. I think on October the 26th, we're going to have some of the candidates come on the show, and then again on November the 2nd, which is just a couple of days before Election Day, so people can get the positions and the politics of it. But today we're just dealing with the framework of how it's set up. Elizabeth, what's the message that the Board of Elections, the most important message that the Board of Elections wants to present to the citizens? Because as Bob Barmore said, the demographics have changed so much here. We have so many new residents moving into town and so many different generations. And their relationship to voting is all different depending on the generation that they're from.
I think that as a board, it's important to us that it is easy and accessible for all Moore County residents to be able to exercise their right to vote.
Right.
And so that's our goal.
The website that you have set up, the Moore County government website, has a lot of information about the dates, the deadlines. If people are going to go to that website, what is it you want them to focus on?
Well, that would depend on their issue. If
Okay.
they're interested in the calendar, then there's a calendar there. If they need information on how to register to vote, I believe that there's a form that they can download from that website. If they want to register to vote, though, they will have to mail in that application or take it to our County Board of Office.
Yeah.
There's no online registering to vote.
How long have you been with the Board of Elections?
I can't give you a specific date. It's been a couple of years.
Are you a Moore County native?
I'm not a native, but I've lived here since 1994.
So I'm always curious when people come on the show, how'd you get here?
I came from Raleigh. I was a graduate from NC State University.
Okay.
And my degree was in agricultural education.
Okay.
So I applied to 2 places to work. One was in Charlotte and one was Southern Pines, which I'm a horse person. I have horses, and it was no it was easy
No-
choice.
no-
Yeah,
no
so I've been here
contest.
since 1994.
Yeah, you have me by 5 years.
These are, yeah, this is
This is home.
home.
Okay. But being an agriculture major, getting involved in, I'm always curious how people evolve into what they do.
Well, I was an agricultural education major, but I was, my emphasis was the equine program at NC State. So, I was always interested in the horses. I will say that because of a professor at NC State, I also pursued poultry science. So there were lots of opportunities here in Moore County, any way you looked at it. And then I taught at Pinecrest High School for about 7 years, I believe, and there it was horticulture. So that was a big focus. And
Oh, is that right?
And it's very interesting.
Okay. I've lived here since 1999, and I've voted here since 1999, and my experience has always been that it's very organized, it's very civil, it's kind of folksy. If you go to a couple of the different locations, it's like Andy of Mayberry. It's a small town atmosphere. People are chitting and chatting and talking, not at all like an urban area. Our politics are all local. And I've always found that there's been a very fervent strength of people get very enthusiastic about their areas, and they take their elections very seriously. I'm saying that to you, Bob Barmore. How long have you lived here?
I bought a second home in 2001, and I think
Okay.
I've been full-time about 12, 13 years.
Okay. Do you see the world the same way I just described it?
Yeah, I think you described the voting. My favorite experience is all the tree lighting, Christmas ceremonies. It's always like
Right.
the ending of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. Everyone from Whoville standing there singing songs together. It's small town cute is what I call it.
Yeah. Do we do electronic? It's electronic now, right? In every district in the county, it's not paper ballots.
We have paper ballots in Moore County.
Paper ballots.
Absolutely.
Oh, the paper ballots, and then they're filed electronically through the machine where they're counted. Is that
So we use a hand
Help me.
marked.
okay?
When you
Talk
get your
to me like I'm
ballot,
a second grader.
when you get your ballot, you hand mark it.
That's right.
And then you take it to a tabulating machine,
That's it.
and there will be someone standing there, and you put your ballot in that machine. You can see the number tabulated for the day.
That's it.
And then you get your sticker and your ballot. We have an actual paper ballot to verify election results, which we do after each election. The State Board of Elections designates 2 sites where we have to hand count to make sure that the tabulator was correct. So, for example, during the last election, they chose the one-stop site, and it was quite a number of ballots. But we have to hand count them to verify that the tabulator is tabulating correctly.
The most accurate way to control and to count the votes.
Well, I believe that it's a statistically, if you are randomly checking 2 of, say 26 polling sites,
Right.
then statistically, I think that you can, determine that the results tabulated are accurate.
Yeah. The Board of Elections, they require or they rely on volunteers heavily.
Absolutely.
I've noticed at all the polling places, so many people that I know, and but that's one of the distinguishing characteristics of voting in Moore County, isn't it?
Well, I believe that process is the same, throughout the state of North Carolina, where the political parties nominate people to serve on the Board of Elections, for example, and also to be polling workers. So, in general, it takes a minimum of 7 people to work in a polling site, and these people represent both parties. So, both parties nominate people to represent them at the polling places. And then as a Board of Elections, that is one of our responsibilities to accept these people to work.
Okay. As I was reading through the website, am I mistaken? Is it true that we have 68,000 registered voters in Moore County between all different parties? I saw Does that sound right? We have
It sounds about right to me, and I know if it's not
it's a lot.
exactly right, it's pretty close.
That's a lot. I mean, we have 97 or 98,000 people in Moore County, and 68,000 are registered to vote. That's pretty good. I bet you that's a lot better than a lot of other areas across the country. We're going to come back in the second set. We're going to talk about, continue to talk about the role of the Board of Elections and upcoming Election Day, November the 5th, and we will have a couple of shows between now and then to introduce some of the citizens to some of the candidates in some of the towns that are running for office. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Our focus today is all about the upcoming elections on November the 5th, and we're speaking with the Moore County Board of Elections, Elizabeth Forbes Mangrum, also Robert Wilson and Bob Barmore, who are both board members of the Pinehurst Civic Group. The point was made during the break that this is a municipal election. And Elizabeth, can you explain what the difference is for people who live in Moore County, what that means?
So this election is a municipal election, which means that you have to be a resident of the municipality in order to vote. And I can give you an example that I do not live within the town limits of Cameron. So I live on the outskirts, and so I cannot vote in the municipal election for the town of Cameron for any of those candidates. And I think it's important for citizens to know that, you know, you need to reside within a municipality in order to be eligible to vote in the elections this November.
So the 2019 elections coming up are all local elections.
Correct.
2020, completely different set of rules.
Completely different.
Right.
It's a general election.
Right. Okay. So with all the different municipalities that are fielding candidates, let's focus on Pinehurst this set. And let's talk a little bit about the Pinehurst Civic Group, about the organization, its history, its motivation, and some of the things that you guys are planning to do to better inform the citizens of Pinehurst prior to November the 5th. Bob Wilson.
Thanks, Bill. A lot of people don't realize Pinehurst Civic Group goes back to about 1977 when it was first founded. It was founded basically to make sure that the people that lived in Pinehurst had some say over the commercialization of Pinehurst under its previous owner, Dimelhead Corporation. And then in '79, they were heavily involved in petitioning the North Carolina Municipal Board of Control for incorporating Pinehurst. And since that time, they've been involved in a wide variety of civic projects, both donating money and getting involved in issues. They've taken a strong position since 1984 in the development around the main traffic circle in Pinehurst. They've done minor things, or to some people major things, in helping people figure out how to have a second water meter for irrigation of their yard. They took a position where they developed papers on both sides to show the dangers, pros, and cons of high-density residences on Linden Road back in 1987. And in '91, they helped play a major role with the village council in purchasing the harness track and the fair barn. And the list goes on, and particularly and I think in '94 they helped the village purchase 100 acres that became Rassy-Wicker Park, and where the village hall, the fire station, and the police station sat today. So it's been a process of helping people within the village of Pinehurst work with both state and Moore County in making sure that they protect what is important to the citizens of Pinehurst.
You know, I first came here, I was 4 years out of college in 1979. I came down here on a golf trip from the Philadelphia area, originally from northern New Jersey. And it was before Pine Wild even existed. It was a hunting preserve. And in the middle 80s, they started to offer lots. They had a cabin, which was set up as their sales office. And they couldn't even give deeds out to the land yet. We had to wait 3 years, and there was a lottery. And that's how the first lots were sold. But since the middle 80s till today, Pinehurst has undergone, number one, a lot of growth, a lot of change, and there's a lot of talk always about the character and the ambiance of Pinehurst. I mean, you mentioned 1977, and I would say that since 1977 to today, you could make the argument that Pinehurst has been the lead dog on the sled for Moore County as the biggest drawing card, you know, coming in here. And yet today, we're in a completely different demographic shift. So many things are changing. The civic group is almost like the police, trying to keep things focused and in order so people are focused on the things that are in the best interest of the long-term values of Pinehurst.
I think you're right. I think the main thing is to have a balance. I think most of us agree that some development is good, and it's going to happen no matter what. People have lots in Pinehurst, and they have a right to build on those lots.
Right.
But there are other issues that are coming up, and I think that most people just want to make sure that all sides are heard in the debate. And so I always kind of thought of the civic group as being a giant spotlight, showing some facts that may not be well known to people, and just making sure that when the decision makers make their final decision, they're hearing from all sides. And I think if we do that, we've done our job.
Yeah. Bob Barmore, you know Pinehurst. You have a perspective that most do not have.
Well, you used one of my favorite words when I interviewed for a position on the board. My purpose was to protect the ambiance of Pinehurst, because it's the charm.
Right.
Once you lose that, you'll never get it back. So that, the real purpose is a communications tool between the village council, our government, to the residents, and vice versa, so that they hear from us and we hear from them, and we understand what's going on. I mean, we played a major role in the review of the development ordinance. We are one of the few people that actually sat down and read that monster document and went through all the red line changes and tried to understand and make sense out of it. So it's really a give and take, and to try to translate whatever's going on at the village council meeting to the average citizen so that they know what's going on, and if it raises issues, we communicate that.
Right. So, the civic group is doing more than just outlining the history and the differences. You guys are actually organizing an event that's coming up here in a couple of weeks prior to November 5th. You want to talk about that?
This is one of the things that we try to do whenever it's appropriate, but we are having a candidates forum with the village council candidates as well as mayoral candidates. Will be available to meet, and we will speak with them and ask questions on October 15th, 6:30 p.m. at the Village Hall Auditorium. We certainly reach out to any and all residents of Pinehurst who would like to come and become more informed voters. That's really the purpose.
So you have a format set up for all the candidates who are running either for mayor or for town council?
Correct.
Okay.
And the entire format is being developed. We've done this before, but it's really as much as the time on the microphone. This is Pinehurst. The candidates will stick around. You'll have a chance to shake their hands and introduce yourself and let them know about your personal issues that you care about and get a reaction. But it's been very well received historically, and it's a service that we consider kind of basic to our existence.
Mm-hmm. How many members in the civic group right now?
We have a mailing list. It's about 600.
Yeah.
In terms of board members, we have 5 active. Kind of a secondary agenda. We would love to have more volunteers that share our interest in the village of Pinehurst and want to invest a little time and effort.
Yeah.
And we we rise like a phoenix when necessary in terms of major issues become available, and sometimes we hibernate when things are not going on. It's that important.
Elizabeth made a point in the first set that the members of the Board of Elections, there were so many Republicans and so many Democrats, and it's supposed to be balanced. Is the civic group set up the same way?
The civic group is completely nonpartisan.
Okay.
I mean, I have no idea what the partisan affiliation, if any, of my colleagues are. Our other board members are Carolyn Jameson, Joanne Valdez, and Pat Henry. And I have to tell you, I couldn't tell you.
There you go. That's good.
We're just talking about civic issues, and I think that's one of the beauty about places like Pinehurst is that the labels really don't matter. We're talking about local issues that really aren't addressed by the parties anyway.
Right. Do you guys find that the issues that come up are not Democratic or Republican issues? They're local issues.
Parking in the village.
Yeah, there you go. What is that? Are you right wing or left wing? How do you feel about parking?
We need parking.
Right. It's all local, and it's a grassroots type a situation, not a partisan per se.
Well, one of the things that talking about left lane or right lane or center of the roads is that the civic group held the first ever transportation forum with the North Carolina Department of Transportation a couple of years ago, and we had all sides together. And I know we saw all of the various plans and drawings they had for the main traffic circle out there, and I think there were probably 12 of them. And it was pretty much anything you could think of. There was one that was going to be tunnels under the road. There was one that was going to be overpasses. There was one that had 8 other little circles within the big circle. It was kind of wild, but those were all the possibilities. And I think what they've come up with is something that's a little bit more sane than having all the overpass and underpass.
Here's a big picture question. In the last couple of years, has social media changed the way people get their information? It's easier to communicate than it might have been 15 years ago?
Definitely. It's things travel with the speed of light now, and
Right.
so you can get a major report on something and immediately forward it or tweet it or something to somebody else. So the information gets out there.
Yeah.
I think the problem that all of us are having is that there's an overload, and so you'll see a headline,
Right.
and there'll be a 20-page document behind that headline, and that probably has nuances to that headline, and maybe the headline wasn't right after all. So it's part of the problem or part of the issues that we're facing today is how to assimilate all this information and weed out the good from the bad, or the things that are relevant for the things that aren't relevant.
Yeah. Bob?
Well, the Pinehurst Civic Group does have a webpage, pinehurstcivicgroup.net.
Right.
We have taken the liberty, and we've got bios on all of the candidates for mayor and village council. So we invite you to go there to get some more background on the individual candidates.
Okay. We're going to come back in the third set. This is All Things Moore County. We're talking all about Election Day, November the 5th, and speaking with the Pinehurst Civic Group, and equally, or more importantly, speaking with the Moore County Board of Elections for the way the framework is set up and how the process runs so smoothly. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County, Election Day, and the logistics and the work of the not only the board, the Pinehurst Civic Group, but the Moore County Board of Elections, what they do to make the process smooth and easy. And we're starting out today just talking about some of those logistics. In the second set, Bob Wilson was talking a lot about the Civic Group and about the upcoming event on the 15th of October, the Candidates Forum. And Bob, there was something you wanted to add to that.
Yes, basically, just to let people know, it's a process that will probably last between an hour and a half, something like that. And we'll have a moderator that Melissa Swarbrick, who is a former Pinehurst Civic Group president and who has been the moderator for several of these candidate forums. And so what will happen is that she'll pose predetermined questions to all the candidates. These are questions that were repeatedly suggested to us on the board, and the candidates have not seen any of the questions or know their content. And each candidate will then have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and the order of response will be randomly chosen by the moderator.
Yeah. Historically, the attendance that you get at these events are pretty good.
It has been, I spoke to Melissa this morning, and she reminded me last year that it was standing room only. They had pulled in chairs from several different audiences, and there were people standing around during the entire forum.
Yeah. I notice a lot of people who live in the southern part of the county, they love the areas they live in. They fervently fight for their self-interest and preserving the communities that they live in. And I mean, that's an ongoing conversation.
It is, and this year it's been heightened somewhat because the village council, as we speak, is considering implementing the comprehensive long-range plan for the village of Pinehurst.
Yeah.
It's a culmination of an envisioning project that I was involved in over the last year with the village. And it's come up with about 160-something, I believe, recommendations that the council will be adopting in the next few weeks. And so it's heightened everybody's interest in what's in that report and what it means for the future of Pinehurst.
Yeah, and we will have those Pinehurst candidates, along with the Southern Pines candidates, Whispering Pines candidates, and Aberdeen candidates coming on the weekend of October the 26th and November the 2nd to speak about some of the things that most matter. So there'll be another avenue of getting information out there, which will be great. Getting the information out there and getting ready for voting on Election Day is all well and good so long as you're registered to vote.
Correct.
Some people get caught short and they go, oh, I wasn't paying attention. And voting has become, it's picking up. I think participation is increasing now every couple of years. Imagine not being registered. So what do people need to know about registration?
So if a voter is not registered to vote, they can do it in several ways, but a voter must register by Friday, October the 11th to vote in this municipal election. Any voter who has moved
That's next week.
That's next week. Any
Okay.
voter who's moved must notify the Board of Elections about moving by Friday, October the 11th.
Okay.
For example, if you move to the area, you need to register to vote by October the 11th. A person can register in person at the Moore County Board of Elections office at 700 Pinehurst Avenue in Carthage between 8 and 5, which is their normal business hours, Monday through Friday. You can register to vote by printing off an application from the Moore County Board of Elections website. You can also obtain these voter registration forms from Moore County library sites, the Southern Pines Library, the Givens Memorial Library, all municipal offices except for Southern Pines. Some local BB&T branches in Moore County have voter registration forms, or you can call the Moore County Board of Elections office and we will mail you an application. Voter registration application forms have to be printed out and they have to be mailed in. So there is no online voter registration.
Okay.
When you mail them in, they have to be postmarked no later than October the 11th. And you have to be a resident of the county and the precinct for 30 days to be able to vote or to be able to register to vote in that election. So if you fail to make any changes in your name or address by that October the 11th deadline, you need to update your information when presenting to vote. And if you wait until Election Day to do that, you may be asked to fill out a provisional ballot in order to vote. And so, all that's important information for people who are moving, so forth and so on. If you want to vote by absentee ballot, you can do that starting October the 6th. Ballots will be available. So if you are interested in voting by absentee and not showing up to the polling place, you can request a mail-in form. and we will mail that form to you. And then you can vote that way. You can vote on election day, and you can vote during our one-stop period.
So if somebody has a driver's license and they were registered in the last election and they knew which polling place to go to, should they just show up that day of voting and then just bring their driver's license with them? How does that work?
So if they haven't moved and none of
Right.
the information has changed,
Right.
I haven't moved in 12 years.
Okay.
So I just go to my polling place, and you get to the volunteer, and you ask, or they'll ask you your name and address, and you provide that information and your political affiliation, and then that's how they locate you in the voter registration books, and that's how they will provide you with a ballot.
And what about people who are registering to vote for the first time? When they do register, if they do it before October 11th, are they told where their polling place is?
Yes, and you
Okay.
can find out your polling place via our website. I believe there's a button that says
It's a great little button. I think it's called Confirm Voter Confirmation.
Mm-hmm. So
And you can confirm yourself and your neighbor. It was amazing. All this is public
It's
information in terms of yes, you are registered, or no, you're not registered. It'll show your address that's on record, and it'll show your correct polling place. So it's an amazing little piece of technology right there on the webpage.
Okay.
So our one-stop voting for our municipal election is going to be held at the Agricultural Center in Pinehurst.
Right.
In
Carthage.
Carthage.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the hours are going to be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then we will also have voting on Saturday, October the 26th from 8 to 1 p.m.
Is absentee voting a big deal in a municipal election or just in a general election?
It is more taxing for the board during the general election, but we do anticipate some people voting during the absentee period. I can tell you that the numbers during the last municipal election were not a lot.
Okay.
So hopefully these conversations will encourage more people to exercise the right early. I find it a lot easier to find time within the 17-day period rather than on actual election day, and that's what we want to do, is make it easy and accessible for all citizens of Moore County to be able to exercise the right to vote.
So as a chairperson for the Moore County Board of Elections, do you liken yourself to a CPA prior to the April 15th tax deadline? Are you under the gun? Are you under a lot of pressure? Are you under a lot of scrutiny? Is it a 24/7 endeavor right now?
It is.
Okay. So you said that, but there's a lot more behind what you just said. But I could just tell by looking at you. In other words, there is a lot of oversight you provide, but there are people always looking and making sure that everything is done properly and in step, and there are no foul-ups and screw-ups.
Absolutely. And as the board chair,
Yeah.
I serve. I'm not an employee of the Moore County Board of Elections, and we have a dedicated staff.
Right.
Glenda Clendenin is an excellent director
Right.
who is known
Yep.
for her knowledge. She's infinite wisdom to me and a source of true inspiration, and so I do trust her to run our county board of elections. The way she does it, she runs a very tight ship, and I do trust her immensely. But as a board, I also respect and admire all of the members on the board that serve, and we do meet and have to make decisions that affect all the citizens of the county, and it's a honor to do so.
People go and they vote on the 5th of November. They go home. They put their sticker on their shirt. Their job is done. November the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, your job is not done, is it?
It's not done, and so when we talk about absentee ballots,
Right.
people who decide to request the absentee ballot by mail,
Right.
and they send in their ballots, that's one of the responsibilities of the board, that we meet every 7 days after early voting starts, and we count absentee ballots. And so that's a responsibility that starts from the time early voting begins. Then on election day, that's a very long day. The polls open at 6:30 in the morning, and we all take supplies and things to the polling places, as well as visit each of the polling sites. There are 26, and there are 5 members, so we divvy those up based on our geographic location. And then we count, and we have to wait for all the polling places to bring in their equipment and their numbers. And then as a board, we literally sign off on every one of those tickets that comes out of the tabulating machines.
Right.
And then we also perform a canvass 10 days after the election to certify the results.
Okay.
And s-
I'm going to get you an Advil, a couple of them. The best site that people can go to at this point would be the Moore County website, Board of Elections, moorecountync.gov / Board of Elections and Voting.
Correct. It's under departments too. I don't know about the slash, but you can check under departments and click on the County Board of Elections.
Right. And there is just about everything you're outlining put in bullet point form if people have questions. But they only have a week right now because October the 11th is next Friday.
It's true.
Well, I would like to just
Bob?
make one point. I mean, this one-stop absentee balloting is absolutely fabulous. You're talking about time frames, because that starts October 16th, and you can vote up until Friday, November 1st.
Okay.
Now, granted, you don't go to your polling place. You have to go to the Moore County Agricultural Building, but you can go there and register
And register,
vote.
which is very important, particularly when you're looking at time frames and moving to,
So literally on November 1, you can register and vote for an election on November 5th.
I did. Okay. And what happens to the October 11th deadline then? That confused me.
Well, this is absentee voting.
Okay.
Yes. So you have to be registered to vote
Gotcha.
by Friday, October the 11th.
Okay.
And then, let's see, early voting starts, we'll have the ballots on October the 6th. So ballots can start going out October the 6th for early voting. And then the deadline to apply for an absentee ballot by mail is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October the 29th.
Okay.
And then the one-stop absentee voting will begin on Wednesday, October the 16th, and it will end on Friday, November the 1st at 5 o'clock.
Okay. I liken you to a CPA right before tax deadline, tax season. Very impressive. You're unemotional. You get right to the point. Boom, and you stay focused. Election day is November the 5th. October 11th is the deadline for registering. And if you register this year, you don't have to worry about doing
It's
it
true.
for the general election next year.
You're in.
And that in itself is great incentive. October 15th is just a few days after the 11th, and there will be a candidate forum in Pinehurst, sponsored by the Pinehurst Civic Group. And that's a great opportunity to listen to the candidates, and there will be the candidates from many of the municipalities coming on the show the weekend of October 26th and November the 2nd. So we're all going to try to get the word out as best we can so that when people do go and vote, they're informed. Elizabeth Forbes Mangrum, thanks for coming and joining us. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Good luck, and I think we'll see you down the road. Robert Wilson, Bob, and Bob Barmore, good luck with the Pinehurst Civic Group, and thanks for putting this together and for talking, especially in the middle of the show, about the role of the Civic Group. I think every issue, politics are local here, and what you guys do is you increase awareness as we go, and that's important.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
You make it all possible. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Bob, good to see you. Thanks for organizing the show.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you all.
Good day.
This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.